Hey people, it's NIyas713. Now this is a few years old, but it's still important, so I'm doing this again. Well, actually, I don't think I did it the first time. This is from New York Times. A truckload of Nike shoes left as bait stings Chicago. Chicago, even in a city rife with distrust of law enforcement, residents were shocked by the sting operation. A tractor trailer filled with Nike sneakers parked in an impoverished neighborhood on the south side. The bait truck was left there earlier this month to lure would-be thieves into a trap, the authority said. 3 men were arrested on charges of stealing from the truck, prompting outrage in the community where faith in the police is already at a low point. "You all are dirty," one young man yelled at uniformed officers stationed near the truck in a video that spread quickly online. "You wouldn't have did it in your neighborhood." The Chicago police, however, were playing a secondary role in the sting. Operation Trailer Trap was led by Norfolk Southern Railway with officers from its own police unit and was orchestrated in August 2 and 3 after several thefts of parked and locked freight trucks and containers in the immediate area. So keep in mind, they didn't try and guard any of the existing ones. They created a crime to lure people in. After the tactic was roundly criticized, the railroad company apologized and promised not to do it again. Prosecutors dropped burglary charges against the men, but the damage was done. The operation may not have been the Chicago Police Department's idea, but it certainly bore the brunt of the backlash. Oh, we know how the Chicago PD gets down. It wasn't that they didn't think of it. They were chafing at the bit that didn't think of it. You don't bait people, you bait animals. Are you calling us animals? Charles McKenzie, an anti-violence activist who shot the video, said in an interview. The failed operation comes at a tense time for Chicago, where 66 people were shot on a recent weekend. Another 58 were shot last weekend, and a police officer is expected to go on trial next month in connection to the 2014 killing of a black teenager. The death of the teenager, Laquan McDonald, roiled the city and led to murder charges against the officer, Jason Van Dyke. So I want people to remember, when they keep talking about black-on-black crime, the cops are not trying to find the people doing the shootings. They're too busy trying to create crime, to arrest people for the crime that wouldn't exist. And I remember being posted, a lot of the times, these shootings are on the weekend. Now, the post went, "Gangbangers don't work 9 to 5. Cops do, though." The reason this struck a nerve is that we are at such a low point of trust between the police and the black community, said Karen Shelley, a director of the American Civil Liberties Union of Illinois. The city has promised again and again to reform the police department. More than 2 weeks after the bait truck was deployed in a neighborhood where nearly all the residents are black, resentment lingers over the episode. In a rebuke to the police, community groups plan to give away hundreds of pairs of donated shoes in the neighborhood this weekend, an idea the Chicago rapper Vic Mensa is calling the anti-bait truck. Mr. Mensa, a Grammy-nominated artist who grew up on the city's south side, saying he came up with the plan because he wanted to find a way to invest in the neighborhood. Hang on, is he giving away shoes? Did I read that right? Well, I suppose it's good if people can't afford them, but surely a better thing would be to give people access to education, like understanding their rights, or, well, a lot of other things, but let's just keep going. The timing of the sting operation. Mr. Mensa, a Grammy-nominated artist who grew up on the city's south side, saying he came up with a plan because he wanted to find a way to invest in the neighborhood. The timing of the sting operation during a period of summer violence was disrespectful, he said. To see the police escort a bait truck full of shoes through a low-income neighborhood where people can't afford basic necessities, it seemed very representative of how ill-equipped they are to deal with the city's issues, Mr. Mensa said in an interview. People need to understand the police are not there to help black people. They are there to target black people. Once you understand this basic principle, everything makes so much more sense. The bait truck was left near 59th Place and Princeton Avenue in Englewood, a neighborhood where nearly 60% of the residents earn less than $25,000, according to the 2015 census data. It is also among the most crime-ridden, though last year has recorded fewer shootings and other violence than in past years. The Chicago police referred questions to Norfolk Southern, which said the action was in response to cargo thefts that included guns and ammunition. I wonder, the guns and ammunition, considering how the Chicago police are involved, is it possible that maybe they drop off some of these guns and ammunition in black neighborhoods? And that's why there's so much violence? Because I always keep saying to people, when people talk about black-on-black crime, how many black folks do you know who manufacture guns or sell guns? Serious question. You don't, do you? No, very few of you know anyone who does. You all know some black rapper or someone who's posed with a gun or owns a gun, but you don't know anyone who produces or sells them. Earlier this month, the Chicago Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson said he would take a hard look at the episode, but defended the motives behind it. The motives behind it were to get more Tiwaniyan black men in jail. So, of course, they're for it. And they had been experiencing a lot of theft of firearms over there. So responsibility to keep those firearms off the street and out of the hands of the wrong people, Superintendent Johnson told reporters. Still, some critics have questioned why the Chicago police were involved at all and encouraged the department to take responsibility, even if it only assisted with the arrest. If you plan on doing a murder and I come with you to drive the getaway car, I'll go to prison too, Mr. Mensa said. Whether or not the initiative was an idea generated by the police, they're an accomplice. And one thing, I'm not an expert on U.S. law, but isn't this something they call entrapment? Like you can't convict people of taking drugs if you go up to someone, say, do you want to buy some drugs? And they say yes. I don't know. Maybe someone who knows more about the law can tell me. Initial reports said the police left the cargo truck open and that teenagers were targeted. But railroad officials said it was locked and the men who were arrested were between the ages of 21 and 59. The suspects saw a parked unmarked trailer and then proceeded to cut open the safety seal and broke into the back of the trailer, and only then did they find retail shoes and unmarked brown boxes previously secured and hidden inside, said Susan Turpay, a spokeswoman for Norfolk Southern. Of course they would say that. The railroad also provided video of the thefts which shows several men inside the truck grabbing large brown boxes. Still, railroad officials apologized in a letter published in the Chicago Tribune. Norfolk Southern recognizes the need to safeguard freight in the area. This operation eroded trust between law enforcement and the community, the letter said. We sincerely regret that our actions cause further unease and we don't plan to use this method in the future. They plan to use more subtle methods that aren't as obvious. The idea of using expensive items to entice would-be thieves is not a new idea. In San Francisco, the police have used high-end bait bikes to make arrests. They do that here in England. I see it all the time. You just see bikes on bike racks that have just been left there for days and weeks. And a reality television show called Bait Car on True TV captured the vehicle thefts. A spokesman for Mayor Rahm Emanuel, who received a barrage of criticism of responses to these violence as he runs for re-election early next year, said in a statement that improving trust between police officers and residents had been a key part in reducing violence in the city. The trust is basically so that they can violate the trust. You can't, like Humphrey Appleby once said in Yes Minister, in order to stab someone in the back, first you got to get behind them. We believe Norfolk Southern made the right decision in eliminating this misguided practice, the spokesman McGrath said. You know, this sounds a bit like vigilante justice, Norfolk Southern, what they did. It's funny, isn't it? The Chicago police went and assisted them, but when Black Panthers would go around patrol black neighborhoods to keep themselves safe, they said, well, you're not allowed to do that, and they shut them down, or they shot them, or they arrested them. Or they would go into churches and just urinate on all the food and destroy it so they couldn't distribute the food. I mean, I know it's slightly off the topic, but it's all related. Anyway, I'm going to leave this article and some others in the description. Please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. If you'd like to support this channel, I'll leave my GoFundMe in the description. If you'd like to follow me on Instagram, I'll leave it there as well. If you'd like to buy one of my t-shirts, I'll leave that there as well. Peace.